That last piece of cake. I never imagined it would change my life forever. I was Sarah, 6 to 7 years old, watching in horror as my daughter-in-law, Emily, took the china plate my late mother had given me and smashed it against the kitchen floor. The pieces scattered everywhere, mirroring the sudden fracturing of my heart. "I can't take your stupidity anymore, old woman," she shrieked, her voice the familiar sound of my fear. "How dare you eat the last piece of cake I bought for Michael? You are shameless." I stood there trembling, my hands dusted with flour because I was making dinner, the same dinner I had prepared every single day for the past 5 years, ever since my husband died and I came to live with them. The same dinner they never once thanked me for. "Emily, please," I whispered. "I didn't know it was for Michael. I thought—" "Don't give me excuses," she interrupted, her sour breath close to my face. "Ever since you came to this house, you've done nothing but cause problems. You eat our food, use our electricity, our water, and on top of that, you have the nerve to steal my husband's cake." Steal. That word was a dagger straight to my chest. Me. The one who had raised Michael since birth. The one who had carried him in my arms when he was burning with fever. The one who sold my jewelry to pay for his college. The one who worked double shifts at the factory so he would want for nothing. Now, I was a thief in my own family. Michael appeared at the kitchen door, drawn by the shouting. My son, my only son, the one to whom I had dedicated my entire life. I thought he would defend me, that he would tell his wife to stop this madness. But when our eyes met, I saw something that shattered my soul. Shame. Shame for me, his own mother. "What happened here?" he asked in a tired voice, as if I were merely a burden he had to bear. "Your mother ate your birthday cake," Emily said with that fake, saccharine smile she used when she wanted to manipulate him. "The piece I had saved especially for you after your long day at work." "Mom," Michael sighed, running his hand over his face. "We've told you 1,000 times to ask before taking anything from the refrigerator." The world crashed down around me. My own son was defending this woman who treated me worse than a hired help. I recalled all the times Emily had yelled at me for using the upstairs bathroom, for sitting on the living room sofa, for turning on the television without permission. And Michael was always silent, always avoiding conflict, always choosing her over me. "You know what, Michael?" Emily said, a malicious glint in her eyes. "I think it's time for your mother to find another place to live. This house has gotten too small for all of us." The words fell like bombs in the silent kitchen. Michael said nothing. He just stared at the floor. And in that silence, I finally understood. For 5 years, I had been living where I wasn't wanted, tolerated out of charity, enduring humiliation because I had nowhere else to go. "But, Emily," I whispered, my voice breaking, "this house belonged to my husband. We bought it together 30 years ago." "It belonged," she emphasized cruelly. "But now it's in Michael's name, and Michael is married to me. If you don't like how we run our home, the door is right there." My mind flashed back to the sacrifices. I remembered when they got married and didn't have money for the down payment. I signed the papers to transfer the property to him, trusting I would always have a place here. I recalled the $15,000 I took from my savings for their honeymoon. The $10,000 I lent them when Emily wanted to open her beauty salon. Money they never paid back. "Right, Mom." Michael's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. "Maybe Emily is right. You could look for a small apartment, something more comfortable for you." Comfortable for me? As if the problem was my comfort and not the fact that his wife hated me and he was too much of a coward to defend me. "I don't have money for an apartment, son," I told him with the little dignity I had left. "Well," Emily shrugged with cold indifference. "Then you'll have to find a job. At 6 to 7, you can still work perfectly fine." Work? At my age, with my arthritic hands and my back that ached every morning, after 40 years in the factory until retirement, after raising Michael alone because his father worked day and night. In that moment, something inside me shattered. Not just my mother's plate, but something deeper, the image I had of my family, the hope that things would get better, the illusion that my son loved me enough to protect me from his abusive wife. I couldn't sleep that night. I stayed awake in my small room, the one that had been Michael's study, remembering every moment that had led me to this hell. I looked at the few things I had saved from my old life: my wedding photo, my grandmother's rosary, the antique mirror my husband gave me. How had I ended up here? When had I become this frightened woman who had to ask permission for everything in what used to be her own house? I remembered Michael's birth. 18 hours of labor, alone, because his father was on an extra shift. Holding him, I swore he would never know the poverty I had lived through. I worked at the textile factory since he was 6 months old, leaving him with my neighbor, Chloe, to pay for his needs. When he was 8 and wanted a bicycle, I worked double shifts for 3 months. My hands bled from the machines, my feet swelled from 14 hours standing, but it was worth it for his smile. When he turned 15 and wanted brand-name shoes, I sold my gold earrings, the only ones my mother had given me before she died. Michael never knew where the money came from. And when he wanted to study engineering, I mortgaged the house I had inherited from my parents, $20,000 that had taken my family 2 generations to save. I bet it all on my son's future. He graduated with honors, got a good job. I was so proud. But then came Emily. She was his manager's secretary, 10 years younger, with long nails and a shrill laugh. From the first day, I knew she didn't want me around, the way she looked at me, as if I was something unpleasant to be tolerated. It started with small things: comments about my old-fashioned clothes, criticism of my food, suggestions about my hair. Michael would laugh nervously and ask me to ignore her, claiming Emily was just direct, but had a good heart. How innocent my son was, or how blinded by love he had become. The wedding was the first major blow, $45,000 for a ceremony at the city's most expensive hotel. "It's just a loan, Mom," he told me with those pleading eyes. "I'll pay you back in a year, I promise." I liquidated my retirement plan. All the money I had saved for 20 years for my final days went to flowers, musicians, and lobster. They never paid back a single cent. Then came the house. They needed something bigger, more elegant. "Mom," Michael told me one afternoon, "remember the house where you lived with Dad? It's in an area that's really going up in value. You could sell it and come live with us. That way, you'd be close to family." I sold the house I had lived in for 30 years, the one where all my memories were, for $50,000, and gave them $30,000 for the down payment on their new house. I kept the remaining $20,000 as my only financial security. Things changed when Emily quit her job to open her beauty salon. The cost, another $15,000. "It's a safe investment," Michael explained. $15,000 more from my savings. I was left with only $5,000 from a lifetime of work. The salon went bankrupt in 6 months. Emily blamed bad luck. The money never came back, and I was left living off the charity of my son and his wife, dependent on my miserable $300 a month government pension. That's when the real hell began. Emily started treating me like a maid. I had to get up at 5 a.m. to make breakfast, wash all the dishes and clothes, and clean the house top to bottom. If I protested, she would remind me I was living in her house for free. The humiliations escalated. I couldn't use the main bathroom. My shower time was 5 a.m. I couldn't watch TV after 8 p.m. I couldn't have visitors. I was completely isolated. Michael saw it all, but always had an excuse. And now, after 5 years of this hell, after giving every last cent, after becoming the unpaid maid for my own family, they were kicking me out over a piece of cake. The next morning, Emily appeared in my room, perfectly dressed, a folder of papers in her hands. It was barely 7 a.m. Michael stood in the doorway, avoiding my gaze. "Good morning, Sarah," Emily said with that sickeningly sweet voice. "We came to a decision that we think will be best for everyone." Best for everyone? A pretty phrase for throwing me out. "We've decided to give you 1 month to find another place to live," she announced, as if granting me a monumental favor. "And to make things easier, we've prepared these documents. They're just legal formalities to protect the family." She held out the papers, Small print, official seals, spaces for signatures. What do they say? I asked, hating how helpless I sounded. They're release documents, Michael finally explained, approaching the bed. Basically, you renounce any future claim on this property and acknowledge that you are leaving of your own free will. Renounce. Free will. As if I had a choice. But, Michael, my voice trembled. Your father and I bought this house. I put down the down payment. Mom, he interrupted impatiently. That was 30 years ago. Things have changed. You yourself transferred the property to my name. You no longer have legal rights to this house. Besides, Emily chimed in cruelly, you've lived here for 5 years without paying rent, utilities, or food. If we do the math, you owe us about $20,000 in expenses. $20,000. The same amount I had kept from the sale of my own home. They were charging me for the privilege of being mistreated. If you sign these papers, Michael said, we will waive those debts and let you leave in peace. And if I don't sign? I asked, though I knew the answer. Michael answered, then we would have to do this the legal way. An eviction lawsuit, garnishment of your things for the debts. That whole long, expensive process, and in the end, you'd end up in the same place, on the street, but with a legal record that would make it hard for you to get any other place to live. A legal record. My son was threatening to destroy my reputation. Are you really going to do this, Michael? I asked him directly, searching for any trace of the boy I had raised. For a moment, I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. But then Emily put her hand on his shoulder, and the moment of hesitation vanished. Mom, don't be dramatic, he told me in a cold voice. We're giving you a month to get organized. It's more than most families do. Besides, Emily added with malice, at your age, you should be grateful we've put up with you for so long. Many 6 to 7-year-old women live alone, work, support themselves. They don't depend on their children like little girls. Little girls. Something snapped inside me. It wasn't anger or sadness. It was the final, liberating death of my illusions. All right, I said with a calmness that surprised even me. I'll sign the papers. Michael looked relieved. Emily smiled in triumph. Neither of them realized that something fundamental had changed. I took the pen and signed every page. Sarah E. Miller, my full name sealing my exile. Very good, Emily said, collecting the papers. 1 month. Until the 15th of next month. They left my room as if nothing had happened. But for the first time in 5 years, I didn't feel defeated. I felt free. Free from the obligation to love people who didn't love me back. Free from the hope that had kept me a prisoner of my own kindness. I got dressed in my prettiest dress, the green one Emily hated, and left the house. I had an important call to make. I walked through the streets of my old neighborhood with a strange sense of liberation. My destination was the office of Daniel Thompson, the lawyer who had handled my family's legal affairs for years. When I entered his office, his smile faded. Sarah, what happened? You look different. I handed him the signed papers. Daniel reviewed them, frowning. Sarah, you signed this? This is a legal disaster. Michael is having you waive rights you didn't even know you had. I told him everything, the cake, the 5 years of mistreatment, the eviction, the threats. Sarah, he said finally, these documents signed under emotional duress can be nullified, but it's a complicated and expensive process. Expensive. The word that always ended my hopes. Daniel, I don't have money for legal processes. I only have $5,000 left. He opened a desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder with my name on it. Sarah, there's something I have to tell you. Something that arrived 3 days ago. Your brother Liam passed away. Liam, my older brother. We had lost touch over a stupid family argument a decade ago. He had moved to the United States and built a successful life there. A month ago, he died of a heart attack in Dallas, Daniel explained. He had no children. His lawyer contacted me because Liam had listed you as his legal representative in Mexico for his will. Daniel smiled for the first time. Sarah, your brother left you everything. What do you mean, everything? His construction company, his properties, his investments, his bank accounts. It all adds up to approximately $8 million. $8 million. The figure sounded so absurd. I thought I had misheard. Yes, $8 million, Daniel confirmed. Your brother was a very successful man. I was paralyzed. Me, who had been worrying about how to pay $500 a month for an apartment, had just become a millionaire. There's a personal letter for you, Daniel said, handing me a sealed envelope. I opened the letter with trembling hands. Dear Sarah, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer in this world, and you're finally going to know the truth about my life in the United States. I always admired you for your strength, sister. When Dad got sick, and I left like a coward, you stayed. I built a fortune here, but I never had the courage to call you after our stupid fight. My pride was stronger than my brotherly love. Now that I know my time is running out, I want to fix that mistake. Everything I have is yours. Not because you need charity, but because it belongs to you by right. You are the one who always gave everything for the family without asking for anything in return. Use this money to be free, sister. To live as you deserve to live. With love and regret, your brother, Liam. Tears streamed down my face. Words of love that came at the exact moment I needed them most. The legal paperwork will take about 6 weeks, Daniel explained. But everything is in order. Daniel, I said, wiping my tears. Do Michael and Emily know anything about this? No, and they don't have to know until you decide what to do with the information. A smile slowly formed on my face, a real, powerful smile. You know what, Daniel? I think I'm going to keep this a secret for a while. I have a few things to do first. What kind of things? Family things, I replied, thinking of the papers I had signed that morning. There are some outstanding debts that I need to settle. I left the lawyer's office feeling like I was floating. $8 million. Absolute freedom. The power to choose my own life. But more than the money, what filled me with energy was the sense of poetic justice. After 5 years of being treated like a burden, like a beggar, I now had the power to change all the rules of the game. I walked back to the house that was no longer mine with a smile I couldn't erase. Michael and Emily had no idea what was coming for them. The real war was just beginning. The next few days were the strangest of my life. Outwardly, I was still the submissive Sarah who washed dishes and swept floors. Inside, I was awake and seeing reality with absolute clarity. Michael and Emily interpreted my different attitude as resignation. They thought I had accepted my fate. Good thing you've finally come to your senses, Sarah, Emily told me. You seem more relaxed. You probably feel relieved to no longer have the pressure of maintaining such a big house. Yes, I replied with a smile she interpreted as submission. I feel very liberated. I used every free moment to plan. I asked Daniel to be discreet and handle everything without involving me visibly. I just need a few more weeks, I explained. I have a plan. The plan solidified when I remembered a conversation I'd overheard. The car loan payment is due next month, $8,000 we don't have. And the credit card is maxed out, $12,000, Emily had worried. We still owe $90,000 on the mortgage. Their financial situation was desperate. In 6 months, they would be bankrupt. The next day, while Emily was out, I sat down with Michael. Son, I said, adopting a worried tone. I've been thinking about my financial situation. I only have $5,000 saved. It's not enough to rent a place and support myself. Michael looked uncomfortable. Mom, I already told you we're going to help you find something affordable. No, I interrupted. I don't want to be another burden on you. But I had an idea. What idea? Do you remember my friend Chloe? Well, it turns out her brother died and left her a small house in the center of town. Chloe wants to sell it quickly. It's worth about $30,000, but she said she would sell it to me for $20,000 because we're friends. Michael listened attentively. Mom, but you don't have $20,000. I know, I said as if the idea had just occurred to me. What if you lend me the $15,000 I'm missing? I'll put in my $5,000. You lend me $15,000, and I'll buy the little house. Then I'll pay you back little by little with my pension. Michael looked thoughtful. And where am I going to get $15,000, Mom? Well, I said, you could get a loan with the house as collateral. It's a safe investment because the property I'm going to buy is worth more than what I'll pay for it. A home equity loan. Exactly what I needed for the most delicious part of my plan. I don't know, Mom. I'd have to talk to Emily about it. That night, I heard them discussing it. It's a good idea, Emily was saying. We get rid of her forever and even make some money. What do you mean, make money? Think about it, Michael. We lend her $15,000. She'll pay us back with her $300 a month pension. In 5 years, she'll have paid us $18,000. We make $3,000 in interest. And if she can't pay? Then we keep the house she bought, which is worth $30,000. It's a guaranteed profit. Guaranteed profit. How adorable they were in their greed. The next day, Michael gave me the news. Mom, we agree. We're going to lend you the $15,000 for your house. Oh, Michael, you're the best son in the world. I feigned tears of gratitude, inwardly laughing at how easily they had fallen into my trap. They thought they were using me, but they had just walked right into my perfectly laid snare. I'm going to the bank this afternoon to apply for the loan, he told me. With the house as collateral, there shouldn't be a problem. And I'll call Chloe to close the deal, I lied shamelessly. Of course, Chloe didn't exist, nor her dead brother, nor the house for sale. But Michael and Emily wouldn't know that until it was too late. Would you like the story to continue from this point to the final confrontation and reveal, or is there a specific part you'd like me to elaborate on? The next week was a strange period of false peace. Michael, smug with a $15,000 home equity loan safely deposited into his bank account and the certainty of his mother's imminent departure, even went so far as to buy me a small, store-bought cake slice. Here, Mom, he said awkwardly, placing it on a regular saucer. Happy early freedom. No need to worry about asking this time. I accepted it with a serene smile. They were so confident they had won, so blind to the financial disaster they had walked into. I played my role perfectly, spending my time researching fictitious affordable apartments online, always sighing loudly enough for Emily to hear. Meanwhile, Daniel, my lawyer, was moving mountains. The $8 million inheritance was legally being processed, and the critical piece of information, the full debt settlement, was ready. I had also authorized a massive wire transfer from my new accounts, an amount far greater than Michael could ever imagine. The date was the 15th of the month, the deadline for my eviction. At exactly 9 a.m., Emily marched into my small room. She wasn't smiling. She was gloating. She held a clipboard and wore an air of triumphant finality. Well, Sarah, she chirped. Time is up. I've scheduled the locksmith to change the locks at noon, just to be sure. Did you manage to pack everything? I was already dressed in the green dress, my favorite, the one she had called old-fashioned. My single suitcase, containing the few sentimental items I still owned, sat neatly by the door. Yes, Emily, I'm ready, I replied, standing up. But before I leave, there's a small matter of settling the accounts. I believe in closing all chapters cleanly. We already settled, Sarah. We waived the $20,000 debt for the release forms, and Michael gave you the $15,000 loan for your new place. You owe us nothing, and we've done our part. She tapped the clipboard impatiently. Ah, but you see, I have to pay my debts too, I said, walking past her into the kitchen where Michael was nervously nursing a coffee. I pulled 3 documents from my purse and placed them on the counter next to Michael's coffee mug. Michael, Emily, I began, my voice clear and steady, devoid of the tremor of the past 5 years. The $15,000 loan you so kindly gave me is paid back, with interest. I pointed to the first document, a crisp bank transfer receipt. This is a wire receipt, showing $15,375 transferred to your joint savings account. That's the principal plus a very generous 2.5% interest for your entrepreneurial spirit. Michael frowned at the receipt, confused but starting to look relieved. See, Emily? I told you she was responsible. Emily snatched the paper. Fine. Now get out. Patience, I said, my smile widening. Now for the other debt. The one I have carried for 5 years, the debt of obligation. I pushed the second document across the counter, a cashier's check made out to Michael's name. The amount was bolded and impossible to ignore, $150,000. They both stared at the number. Michael dropped his coffee mug, the remaining liquid pooling harmlessly on the counter. What is this? Emily stammered, picking up the check with trembling hands. Where did you get this kind of money? That, I said, leaning in so my voice was a clear, sharp whisper, is the full, final repayment for every cent I ever gave this family. It includes the $45,000 wedding, the $30,000 down payment on this house, the $15,000 for your failed salon, and the $20,000 I used for Michael's college when I mortgaged my parents' home. It also includes an additional amount to cover my subjective value of 5 years of unpaid labor in your home, which you so thoughtfully categorized as a $20,000 debt against me. Michael's face was chalk white. Mom, I don't understand. You said you had $5,000. I lied, son, I said simply. I lied because I needed to know the price of your loyalty. And the price of your willingness to sell your mother out was a mere $15,000 home equity loan, which you were confident you could profit from. But you see, while you were focused on that meager loan, my brother, Liam, passed away and left me his entire estate. A small inheritance of $8 million. The number hit them like a physical blow. Emily stumbled backward, dropping the check as if it were burning hot. I pushed the third document forward. It was a letter from a different law firm. I called your bank this morning, I continued, adopting the cold, professional tone Emily often used. I paid off the $90,000 outstanding mortgage on this house. I also cleared your $8,000 car loan and the $12,000 maxed out credit card. You are, for the first time in your adult lives, completely debt-free. They were both speechless, trapped by the magnitude of my wealth and the cold precision of my vengeance. Why, Mom? Michael finally choked out, his eyes begging for some scrap of the old Sarah. Why would you pay off our debts? Because, I finished, I wanted to ensure that when I walked out that door, I owed you nothing. Not a cent, not a memory, not even the air I breathe in this house. I picked up my suitcase. Now, for the final item on the agenda, I said. I'm not going to fight the release documents you made me sign. I'm not going to sue you for lifetime residency rights, even though Daniel says I would easily win. I snapped my fingers. The front door opened and Daniel Thompson walked in, followed by a younger colleague holding a briefcase. I don't need this house, Michael. But I can't leave a place of such profound suffering as a prize for cruelty. So, as of 10 minutes ago, I legally purchased this house from you for its full market value of $350,000. Michael stared at the house deed Daniel held up, his face pale with disbelief. You can't. I can, I stated. The money is already in your joint account, along with the $150,000 debt repayment. Congratulations, Michael. You are now financially wealthier than you were yesterday, thanks to the mother you were kicking out. I looked at Emily, whose eyes were wide with a mix of terror and avarice. You got your payment, Emily. You got your house sold. You got the guaranteed profit you planned for. I turned to Daniel. Daniel, Please execute the final transfer. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a new, neatly typed deed. Michael, Emily, Daniel announced in a professional monotone. Effective immediately, the title to this property will be transferred from Sarah E. Miller to the local women's abuse and transitional shelter. It will be a place of refuge for women who actually need protection from the men they love. Michael crumpled against the counter, utterly defeated. His home, his sanctuary, his status symbol, all gone, taken by the woman he had treated like a worthless maid. You have 1 hour to vacate the premises, I told them, finally feeling the liberating joy I had yearned for. I suggest you take the $150,000 check and the money from the sale and go rent a small, comfortable apartment. You'll need to figure out who is going to cook and clean for you now. I walked out the kitchen door, past the spot where the china plate had shattered. I didn't look back at the shame and collapse etched on my son's face. I didn't need to. I stepped out into the morning air, a woman of $8 million, completely free, with the knowledge that I had used my final act of maternal sacrifice to ensure that no one would ever suffer in that house again. I got into the waiting black car Daniel had arranged. The moment I closed the door, I took a deep, shuddering breath. "Where to, Mrs. Miller?" the driver asked. I smiled, my hand resting on my suitcase containing the last remnants of my old life. "To the airport, please. First class to Dallas. I need to visit my brother's grave and properly thank him." "Is there anything else I can assist you with regarding Sarah's future plans or any of the legal aspects mentioned in the story?"